Okay, so I'm dedicating this to my sister, Menorah Rotenberg, and the topic will be sisters, and my sister died in December, but today would have been her 88th birthday, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but first let's start with the class, and we'll get to that when I get to the Midrash that I wrote. Actually, in 1985, which is about 30 years ago, so when I wrote this particular Midrash. So this picture here is a picture by Rossetti, and it actually appears on the cover of my book. So we'll look at that a little bit later, but this is the picture. It's a beautiful picture. And I assume that this is Rachel, and this is the sad-looking person is Leah. And so you have here a picture here, a 17th century picture, where Jacob is complaining to Laban that he gave Leah instead of Rachel as his wife. So you have here, you have a table turned over. It's very, very interesting picture. I guess this is Rachel, Leah in bed. Look how they made her really ugly with a long nose, right? And he's complaining to Laban, what did you do? And I don't know why everything is turned over. Was he so angry? Or maybe they had a night of passion and only discovered in the morning who she was. It was a very interesting picture. And so what we have the text, which basically was that Leah was unloved and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. All right. So this is the whole idea of, so it would seem, if you look at the quotation above, that the pregnancy is considered to be normal, right? In other words, normal is to have children, be pregnant, and not bearing children, being barren would be abnormal. Why? Because if you're a female, you were created only for one reason, right? To reproduce. So this is a very, very interesting idea. It's what we call essentialism, right? Where the essentialist approach is that you have to have children, all right? And so you talk about normal and natural, right? That's natural to be a mother, right? And if you're not pregnant, you haven't realized your full sense of femininity. So barren is used negatively in the Bible, all right? It's and what's really interesting is that most of the women who are the matriarchs start out, there are so many of them who are barren, who pray to God, or their husbands pray for them, or they're so upset that they're, like in the case of Rachel, when Rachel saw that she didn't have any children, Rachel said to Jacob, give me children or I shall die. She's so depressed that she's willing to, is she going to commit suicide? It's not clear. But anyway, he's so angry at her that he says, instead of being sympathetic, right, instead of saying, like Hannah's husband said to her, oh, honey, I love you so much, you don't need children. No. He says, can I take the place of God who has denied you fruit of the womb? In other words, he's not very sympathetic to her, and he loses his temper, but not very good for the ones, considering he loves her so much, it's not really a very nice attitude. And the other, before we look at some of the, because the Midrash that we're going to look at that I wrote is very, very long, I'm going to really cut some of the earlier sources, but I thought it's worthwhile looking at, notice there are two translations here. One is Sarah Milstein, who has an article called The So-Called Polygamous Man in Deuteronomy, right? And this is her translation of Deuteronomy 21, 15-7, right? You can actually read that, right, while I read the traditional one, all right? You can see that there's a big difference there. So if a man has two wives, one loved, which she translates as Ahuvah, one current wife, and the other unloved, which she translates as one ex-wife, the Hebrew Snuah, and both the loved and the unloved have borne him sons. But the firstborn is the son of the unloved one, where he says ex-wife, right? When he wills his property to his sons, he may not treat as firstborn the son of the loved one in disregard of the son of the unloved one who's older. In other words, he may not love his his ex-wife or his unloved wife, right? But he cannot disregard the fact that the child of the unloved one is entitled to the birthright. Instead, he must accept the firstborn, the son of the unloved one, and allot to him a double portion of all he possesses, since he is the first fruit of his vigor. The birthright is his due. And we're not going to discuss this today, but just think to yourself that actually, if you think about the story of Ishmael and Isaac, Ishmael should be the one who inherits everything, right? And the same thing with Esau, if he supposedly is the firstborn. And Reuven should also be the firstborn, and he should, all right? So that the fact is that this does not happen. But Deuteronomy is very clear about it. And there are some people who feel that Deuteronomy is sort of like a Midrash on the Sefer Breshit. In other words, that this is a commentary on, this is saying, no, well, everything that's going on in the book of Genesis is wrong, right? And you have to follow these laws. It's very interesting. And actually, there was a wonderful British scholar whose name was Caleb Carmichael, who actually wrote a book where he showed so many instances of this, of Deuteronomy being a commentary on Genesis. Okay, now in the art, you have here something very, very interesting, where you have here Rachel. This is Michelangelo. Rachel is begging God for children, and here you have here the status of unloved but fertile Leah, all right? And this is Leah. Now, here you can see this in context where it is, all right? This is the context, okay? The tomb of Pope Julius II in Rome. And here is the commentary on that, which I think is very interesting. So from the Christian point of view, Leah stands for the synagogus. She's the synagogue. And Rachel is for the church. Remember, this is a Christian, right? This is a Christian. And Jacob stands for God, right? So the beauty of the church is hid in Rachel, all right? Whereas the synagogue and Leah, the Jews, had to have a veil, right? Because they had no beauty. They had to hide their beauty. It's very, very interesting. So Leah, who was unsightly from that perspective, and Jacob saw her as being unsightly, or God saw her as being unsightly. So she's sort of treacherous. On the other hand, Rachel is the truth. She's the face of the church, and she's beautiful of appearance and fair of face. Let's go back to the pictures. You don't really see that here. So this is the picture. We have the close-up picture of Rachel here. And you have a close-up picture of, I guess if you compare them, she does look more ugly with the Jewish nose. Okay, so here's another picture. Again, Rachel with Jacob. This is where they first meet up at the well. Here's the well, and he meets up with them, and that's when he first falls in love with her. So you have here this whole race between Rachel and Leah to have children, and Leah, of course, seems to be the first one. Notice how she names her children Reuven, because the Lord has seen my affliction. All right, she now has a son who's named Simon, from the word Shama, to hear. The Lord heard. So Reuben would be Ru'u, see, right? The Lord has seen my affliction. And Simon, the Lord heard, Shema, that I was unloved and gave me this one also, all right? And then she had another son, Levi, who is attached to a connection. And then finally, for the first time, notice each one of these, Reuben, Simon, and Levi, are all very pathetic names, right? She hopes that, maybe her husband will finally love her. They're very, very pathetic. And then when she finally has Judah, from Yehudah, Todah, to thank you, this time I will praise the Lord. Finally, she's positive about the name. Very, very interesting on the names here. And then she stopped bearing for a while. Meanwhile, Rachel, back at the ranch, right? She saw that she had no children, all right? And she was envious. And we already saw what she said, give me fruit or children or I'll die. And then she, like Sarah, gives her the maid, Bilhah. And basically that's what happens is she has a son through Bilhah. And then she gives another time. She has two sons by Bilhah, right? Or actually even three, Dan and Naphtali, right? Yeah, Dan and Naphtali. But again, look at how she calls him. God has vindicated me, all right? Or a faithful contest I waged with my sister, that's Naphtali, and I have prevailed. So again, very, very negative. And so what happens? There's a competition between the two. So now Leah saw that she stopped bearing. She didn't have any more children, so she gives her maid Zilpah to Jacob, and then they also have children, okay? But she's actually very positive about what luck, God, and also what fortune. So in other words, you have here Asher and God, which are luck and fortune. Okay. And then there's this very weird story with the mandrakes that Rachel brought them to Leah as if she needed to be fertile. I mean, she's been fertile, all right? And Rachel sees these mandrakes, and apparently they're good for fertility. And she says to her, wasn't it enough that you took away my husband, that you take my son's mandrakes? All right. And then Rachel said, okay, you can lie with him in return for your son's matrix. And sure enough, she lies with him and she has another, a fifth son. All right. And she calls him Issachar, giving me my reward. And she again has a sixth son, again, very positive, Zvulun. And it's funny, Zevel sounds like trash today, but Zvul is something positive. So Zvul is a gift. So my husband gave me a gift. And finally, she has a daughter. She names her Dinah. Notice no explanation for Dinah's name, right? Doesn't matter here, but when we talk about Dinah, we'll remember that. And finally, God remembers Rachel, maybe because of the mandrakes, and she has a son. Notice what she says here. God has taken away my disgrace. Right? She named him Joseph. May the Lord add another son for me. Does this bother any of you that she calls her son Joseph? May the Lord add another son for me. Does this bother any of you?
Absolutely. It's like, okay, I got one. Forget him. I'm really already waiting for the next one. It kind of reminds me of parents who have a kid that needs a bone marrow transplant, and they have a child hoping that child can be a donor for the older sibling. That
oh my gosh, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of like,
yeah.
But here's kind of the opposite. You're like, okay, I got a kid, but now I need number two.
Right.
Got any joy in number one?
Right. Anybody else want to add something? That's really unbelievable. Why do we have all these little dots here all of a sudden? I don't know where they came from, but okay. So before we go on, some more pictures here. So you have here, well, this is much later, but this is also going to be in my story because I have the whole story there, which is when things get bad. Finally, Jacob persuades Leah and Rachel to flee. They're united in the cause there. They both agree they should be doing that. And then on the way, if you remember that Rachel hides her father's trophim, the idols that she stole, and she pretends that she's sitting here. She pretends that she has her period and she can't get up. So, and of course, Jacob swears that anyone who is guilty of this will die. And so according to the tradition, this might be the reason why later on she will die in childbirth. Here's another lovely picture of Dante's vision of Leah and Rachel. I don't know why these stars suddenly showed up, but they came here, and I guess they'll be, these stars don't belong to my presentation, but they're there. And so here's, presumably this is Rachel, and presumably this is, although it's hard to tell who's who, really. Both of them look pretty lovely here. And usually red-haired women are, it's very hard to tell. All right, whatever, doesn't really matter. And here you have, this is coming from Yehudim Ba'im, which we're not going to look at, but even Yehudim Ba'im, notice how they put Rachel being beautiful, and they put Leah being really, really ugly here. She's actually a male actor. And Leah is saying, I've waited 14 years for my, for my wedding night. And she says to him, what? Are you crazy? You expect, she has a baby here. You expect me to deal with this baby by myself? So you have here an interesting, the whole Yehudim Ba'im is very interesting. If you get a chance to look at it, you can. The question is, what's the relationship between the sisters and usually we saw that they're in competition with each other, right? But then there's with the whole idea of the inheritance, right? When they agree, right? When he persuades them to also leave, in connection with that, with leaving, both of them are together, but they're together. Notice how they're together. They're together with, have we still a share in the inheritance of our father's house? Right? It's negative towards their father, right? He regards us as outsiders. He has sold us and used up our purchase price, right? So in other words, the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us, to our children. Now do what your God has told you, okay? So what's interesting here is that there is cooperation between the sisters as they're leaving, but it's a negative type of, right? It's against the father, which I think is interesting. It's not that they're cooperating with each other that much, right? And there's a lot of midrashim about the relationship between the sisters. Most of them focus on the jealousy. Some of them are on sisterly love and even self-sacrifice. So you have a very well-known midrash, which is that Leah's eyes were sore from weeping. Why? Because she had heard people saying, Rebecca has 2 sons, Laban has 2 daughters, there'll be a shidduch. The older girl will be for the older boy, and the younger girl will be for the younger boy, which means she's going to end up marrying the evil, right? The evil Esau, which is why she's crying all the time, all right? But then there are those who are saying that they sent letters to each other, right? They find out that he's going to marry her, and Jacob's going to take Rachel. So Leah would say, what does the older one do? And they told her he's an evil person, a highway robber. All right, what is the younger one? He's a mild man who stayed in camp. And that's why she's crying. In other words, she's crying because she doesn't want to be right? She doesn't want to be married to her. And that's why she prayed, and her prayer was saved her from this terrible fate of marrying Esau. Okay. Another midrash, which is that Jacob fell in love with Rachel at the well. But she said, yes, but my father's a deceiver. You're not going to be able to best him. And so what happens is that Jacob gives Rachel signs because she knows that her father is tricky. And so what happens is he gives her signs so he'd be able to recognize her. So now Rachel, and this shows Rachel's generosity. She said, my sister will be shamed when Jacob discovers the fraud. Remember that her father brings Leah instead of her, and she gave the signs to Leah. That's why when she wakes up in the morning, and he wakes up in the morning, there was Leah, all right? So this is how Laban succeeded in defrauding Jacob, even though Jacob was aware of that, but Rachel had compassion for her sister. So you have here this sacrifice on her part that she gave up her, okay. And then one other act of generosity is, and I think we discussed this many years ago, or maybe even this year, when we talked about Joseph having feminine characteristics. And so this is probably based on this particular Midrash, which is that Leah had when she was pregnant with Dinah, right? She carried a male fetus in her womb during the 7th pregnancy, right? And when Rachel saw that her sister was pregnant, she prayed. And Rachel's prayer caused the fetus's sex to change. So in other words, instead of being Din, right, it became Zina, right? The name, she became a woman, right? Which would also explain why Joseph has some feminine characteristics, right? Because he really should have been born it's a fascinating midrash, especially if you think of it in terms of transgenders today and all of this. You really feel you were born a woman or you really were born a man. And it's fascinating midrash, which I wonder, I assume that people who are transgender are aware of this, but if any of you have friends or children of friends who are transgender, you might want to bring this to their attention. And then in another one, it's actually Leah who is doing kindness for Rachel, just as Rachel did kindness for Leah. Now it's Leah who's doing kindness for Rachel. And so Jacob already had 10 sons, right? 6 from Leah, and 2 from Bilhah, and 2 from Zilpah. And if her sister would only have 1 son and 1 daughter, if she's pregnant with a daughter, she will be lesser than the 2 handmaidens. So Leah prayed to God on behalf of her sister, turn what is in my womb to a female, and do not prevent my sister Rachel from bearing a son. Right? So it's basically God who changes it because of Leah's, right? Because of Leah's prayer. And since Leah had rendered judgment, which is the word for judgment is din, dana, din, she had rendered judgment on herself, the infant was named Dinah. Okay, and this is something in the Talmud. Fascinating midrash. I assume that some of you know it, but those of you who don't know it, you're probably totally confused. But anyway, how can all of this happen? But this is a midrash for you. Okay, here's one of my favorite artists, which is Richard McBee. And here you have, right, they're Haredi, right? And both of them are pregnant at the same time. Again, these stars are really annoying. But whoever put them here, there's nothing I could do about it. Actually, you know what I could do about it? Let me stop sharing, and then I'm going to come right back, and maybe that will eliminate the stars. Let's try that. Yay! Okay, got rid of the stars. Okay, so whoever put those stars on me, make sure you don't do it again. Okay, so it is a lovely picture. Both of them are pregnant at the same time, maybe with Joseph and Dinah at the same time. And then if you think about it, the whole idea becomes very incestuous, because if they're pregnant at the same time, who, according to the Midrash, did Joseph marry?
Yeah.
Anyone remember?
Dinah's daughter.
Right, Asnat. Asnat is Dinah's daughter. So according to the Midrash, so this becomes very incestuous. They're both pregnant at the same time. And then I don't know which one is which. Who do you think is which? Which one do you think is which? I think I would imagine this one is Leah, I would guess. And this one is, I don't know why I'm thinking that. Maybe because her stomach is bigger, or because she's had so many, Okay, so this is Dinah inside here, and this is Joseph inside here. And then Joseph is going to end up marrying Dinah's daughter. Yeah, that's pretty heavy. Okay. So in other words, this whole idea of the jealousy that's there, and also the fear that Rachel might think that perhaps that something's wrong with her, right? There's something's wrong with her. She's envious of her sister. And perhaps Leah had good deeds, but Rachel was maybe more, I don't know, happier or whatever, or more open, or more cheerful because of her good looks and whatever. And so maybe Rachel has a feeling that Leah is getting a reward for not being loved, whereas Rachel, who is loved, is being punished. Okay, now we come to my Midrash, which, as I mentioned earlier, is very, very, very long. Okay, so as I said earlier, I'm dedicating this to my sister, whose birthday would have been today. And this is my sister Menorah, this is me. Since my sister was 6 years older than I thought of her as Leah in my story, and I thought of myself as Rachel. And also, if you see my baby pictures, I really was the beautiful one in the family. And my sister actually had the Jewish nose, unfortunately. When she was around 18, before she went to college, she actually had a nose job, and she was actually beautiful afterwards. So she, as you can see, there's nothing wrong with her looks here, but she did look a little bit, strange when she was younger. And her life completely, when she went up to college, she was totally, but I also came across those of you who are in Israel. I just really came, I don't know, do any of you know the magazine called Kfeller? Anyway, I get stuff from them all the time. And today they talked about Naomi Shemer's song, which is Od Lo Ahavti Dai. And many of you may know it from dancing. It's something that we all used to dance to. And it's a very easy dance. It starts out with a hora, and then you will go into a circle. It's a circle dance. It's very popular. And it's everyone thinks of it as being a very, very cheerful. I asked my daughter today, Ariel, I said, what's your thoughts about Od Lo Ahavti Dai? She said, yeah, very cheerful. We dance to it. But anyway, according to Kfeller, it's actually about the fear of death. And in the 70s, Shemer was diagnosed with diabetes. It festered, and she was hospitalized many times. And she was very depressed, and she chose to write about this and her fear that her life would be cut short without having done all the things they had dreamed of doing. And so the whole song is about all the things that she wasn't able to do. And the refrain is, lo ahavti dai, lo akshav matai. If not now, then when, right? And so the whole idea of if I haven't done all these things, that my life is being cut short. And we never think of the song that way. So basically the idea is to seize the day, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. When I told this to my daughter Ariella, who was actually in the States, and she was one of the last people to see my sister when she was really healthy, and they were having coffee together. And she kept on telling my sister about all her plans of all the things she still has to do and that's waiting for her on her desk. And this was my sister's the very last moment, always looking ahead. And so when I read this just today, about 2 hours ago, I said, oh my gosh, I have to share this with all of you. Before we go on to my actual story, would anyone like to comment? I'll stop the sharing for a minute. Would anyone like to comment on anything that's been said up till now? Stop the share.
Well, Naomi, I was just going to say there was an American author who also said the same thing. I don't know his personal story, but Saul Bellow said essentially the same thing. Seize the day because you don't know what's going to be tomorrow.
Isn't that the name of his book?
Yeah, also.
Yeah. That's what I thought. It sounded familiar. I haven't thought about Saul Bellow for years.
I know.
And anyone else who would like to comment on anything, that's been said till now? No? Okay. So I think, how many readers do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 readers. Okay. So I'm going to give you numbers that you're going to probably have to read at least twice, if not 3 times. It's a very long story. So Barbara 1, write the numbers down because you're going to get more than one number. Barbara 1, Louise 2, Sue 3, Francine 4, Norman 5, Bonnie 6, Jill 7, Geraldine 8, Joyce 9, Margie 10, Phoebe 11. Okay. Barbara. What number am I up to? 12. I think.
Oh, okay, we're back. All right.
Right, 12. Louise, 13. Sue, 14. Francine, 15. Norman, 16. Bonnie, 17. Jill, 18. Jerry Lynn, 19. Joyce, I'm losing count, 20. Margie, 21. Stevie, 22. Right, and we'll cross the bridge when we come to it if we need to repeat. If that was, I'll simply tell you to go back to the beginning. So at the moment, 22, I think, is the last one. So I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so this book, as I told you, this was written in 1985, the story, and then I published it first in 1993, and then it was republished by George's Press, my book in 2003. Okay, so reader one could begin.
It's mine. Give it back to me. I'm just borrowing yours. You can't have it. Return it or else. Why? You never even look at yourself in the mirror. I'm pretty. I need it. Mother, Rachel took my mirror. Make her give it back before she ruins it. But she has two and doesn't even need one. Leah, why do you bother me with every little thing? You're sisters. You should share. She's old enough not to ruin it. Just because she's younger, she gets away with everything, Leah thought. How dare she make fun of my looks? But then she said, Leah, if you return my mirror, we'll go to the well and watch the shepherds flood their flocks, water their flocks. Maybe there will be some new lambs. Let's take some bread and olives with us in case we come back late. That's a good idea. You and I can have a picnic. Sometimes she isn't too bad. Leah thought, maybe Mishlag will come and talk to us.
The shepherds at the well gathered around the two girls. One of them said, your little sister is going to be a real beauty when she grows up. Isn't she cute? She's been admiring herself in my mirror, said Leah. Hello, Mishlag. We thought you might be hungry, so we brought you some bread and olives. That's very kind of you, Leah. It wasn't her idea, Rachel piped in. We didn't bring them for you. We brought them for ourselves, but you can have some of mine. That's very generous of you, said Mishlag, winking at Leah. Thank you, Rachel. Leah was visibly annoyed. On the way home, she said to Rachel, you made a fool of me with Mishlag. Don't ever interrupt when I'm talking to him. Leah likes Mishlag. Leah likes Mishlag. Wait until I tell. Don't you dare. Later, Laban called Leah aside. Rachel told me you were encouraging Mishlag today at the well. What a tattletale, she exclaimed. He and I were just talking. Don't be angry. She was right to tell me. My sister Rebecca was about your age when she left us to marry someone in a strange land. Before that, she didn't talk to the local shepherds. Do you want me to finish the rest?
No, the next person.
Okay.
Yeah.
She sent word that her two sons will be coming, as is our family custom, to ask for your hands in marriage. So that is why I don't want you to encourage the local boys. Leah didn't answer. She was only 12. There was still time. The only boy she really liked and who liked her was Mishlag. And Laban wouldn't hear of him. The two sons of Isaac were nothing to her. She was never going to leave home. 2 years passed. One day Rachel came running to Leah. I have terrible news for you, she stated dramatically. I'm dying. That's awful. What makes you think that? I can't stop bleeding. I'm afraid to die. Hold me close. Oh, don't be silly, Rachel. I'm older than you. I will die before you. Show me where you're bleeding. It's coming from a place I can't show you. Oh, is that it? Leah started to laugh and hugged her. Silly, you're not going to die. What's happening is natural. It happens to all girls. You're now grown up like me. Once a month it's going to happen, and you will have to stay near our tent for a few days until it stops. This means you can have babies. Are you sure? I won't die before you? I promise you. Now let me show you how to keep the bleeding from dirtying your clothes.
If you have any questions, ask Mother or me, not Father. Never talk about this in front of a men. After her sister left, and Leah reflected on the fact that Rachel was now a woman. I wonder how that will affect our relationship. Now that she was mature, Rachel was given a small flock of her own. She went regularly to the well to water it. The well was their only source of water. It was covered by a heavy stone that could only be moved by several shepherds at once. When she would get there, the other shepherds would tease her. They excluded her from the male ritual of rolling off the heavy stone covering the well. When she wanted to water her sheep, she had to get there before they were finished, and then they acted as if she were doing her a favor by letting her use the communal water. One day she came later than usual. The shepherds were just leaving. She asked them to help roll the stone off the well for her. Instead of helping, they jeered. She began coming a little earlier than usual so that she wouldn't have to worry about the stone. One day she saw from the distance that there was someone new at the well. As she came closer, saw he was young and differently dressed than the men she knew. Who is he? She wondered. He looks familiar, as if I should know him. He was talking to.
Okay, the next person.
The other shepherds, who had not removed the stone yet. They were gesticulating. Then they saw her and pointed her out to him. She walked self-consciously at the head of her sheep towards the well, wondering what this was all about. Inspired by her beauty, he rolled the stone off the mouth of the well all by himself and began to water her flock, bucket by bucket. She was overwhelmed. "Who are you? Why are you doing this for me?" she asked. Instead of answering, he kissed her and began to cry. She was shocked by his reaction. When he was able to control himself, he told her, "I am your cousin Jacob, your father's nephew and Rebekah's son." "Why are you crying? Has something happened to your brother?" "No, it is just that I am excited about seeing my family. I have traveled so far. I will run home and tell father you are here. It's thrilling that you are here." With that, she dashed off, leaving Jacob and her two little brothers to tend the sheep. Laban soon arrived, out of breath from having come so quickly. Laban hugged and kissed Jacob. He took a good look at him and said, "My son, is your brother Esau many days behind you?" Laban asked, continuing without waiting for an
Next.
answer.
Next reader.
Me. I think it is me. Were you born, answer, were you born so laden with gifts that one of you decided to come ahead to announce your coming? Laban joked. For this eagerness, you will have first choice of my daughters. That won't be too hard, for Rachel is very fetching. Who knows what may happen in time, for technically you are the younger son and she is the younger daughter. Esau will, of course, have to marry Leah. That is only right. Father, if I may already call you that, Jacob interject. I have something to tell you. Yes, my son, feel free to tell me anything. I hope this will not change your feelings towards me. I have come alone. Esau is not coming, but I am strong and willing. Put me to work at anything you choose. With great difficulty, Laban hid his true feelings and said, "Don't worry, my son. We will talk later. But now come to your new house and meet the rest of the family." After a few days, Jacob began to make himself useful. He helped Rachel tend the sheep and became better acquainted with her. She was the first young woman he had ever known. They exchanged confidences. She reminded him of his mother. She shared his ambitions and expressed sympathy for his plight in having to run away. He was smitten. Within a month, he
declared his love to her. They decided, however, to say nothing to Laban. Rachel, who could never keep anything to herself, felt she had to tell Leah, "He is wonderful, not like the men around here." He has told me all about his home, his mother and father, his twin brother. He is so strong, so different. Do you know his family believes in one God? He says that our belief in our household gods, the Teraphim, is superstition. He plans to teach me about the God of Abraham and Isaac. That's how he calls his God. I hope Father gives you to him, then I will be free to marry Mishlag. Once you're gone, he won't make me wait for another husband from Canaan. A few days after this conversation, Laban called Jacob aside. You are very useful to me, my son. It dishonors me that you work here like a slave. Name your wages, and I will pay them. I love your younger daughter. Pay me with her. I'm willing to wait 7 years for her. Fine. It is better that she marry you than a stranger. Stay with us and work. Time passed ever so slowly for Rachel. Jacob put a superhuman effort into his work so that it seemed like 7 days' work to him. On the day when the 7 years were completed, he went to Laban and asked for his wife to be sent to him.
Of course, a bargain is a bargain. But first, we must celebrate this momentous occasion. I will invite all of the local shepherds and their families to the ceremony. Then she will be yours. Laban went to his wife's tent. Leah was there with her. He told them about the marriage ceremony. You know, we cannot allow Rachel to marry unless Leah found a husband for herself. I can solve that problem easily, said Leah, if you permit me to marry Mishlag. How many times do I have to tell you that my daughter cannot marry an ordinary shepherd? You must marry someone with a future, insisted her father. And what is so special about Jacob? He is an outcast, a homeless wanderer. Why is he acceptable as a husband for Rachel and Mishlag, who lives nearby and has his own children? No, his own flock of sheep is not good enough for me. It's not fair. It's just like when we were children. She's getting what she wants and I can't have what I want. No, you're wrong, Leah. She is not getting what she wants now, and you cannot have what you want because that is not what I have planned, said Laban. What do you mean, father? Asked Leah.
I mean, I want you to marry Jacob, he answered. Never. How could I marry him? I don't even like him. Besides, Rachel and Jacob are meant for each other. They would hate me and would justifiably never forgive my getting in the way of their love. That may be, but you will do what I say without any further arguments. No daughter of mine will remain a spinster. With your looks, it will be hard to find another suitable husband. You will be veiled and go to Jacob tonight after the celebration. Laban then went to tell Rachel of the plan. She began to cry. We've waited so long. How can you do this to us? You will get to marry, Laban said. You will get to marry Jacob. You will just have to wait a while. Anyway, you're still young. Rachel and Leah had no alternative but to accept their father's decision. They I don't have that. The day of the wedding, crying. Their mother tried to comfort both of them. Many sisters marry the same man and stay friends. They learn to share. They help raise each other's children. You at least can know each other. You don't have to get used to a strange woman. I wish I had been that lucky. Your father's second wife and I do not get on. Your stepbrothers hate us. I am sure that Jacob will
Next,
come to love you both equally.
next reader.
Margie?
Margie, you're muted. Margie, you're muted.
Now stop crying, or both of you will have red eyes. That night after the wedding feast, Laban brought Leah to Jacob. She was veiled, as was the custom. Here she is, just as I promised you. Take her, she is your wife. Leah was terribly afraid. How can father think I will fool Jacob? This is terrible. She was grateful that she was veiled and he couldn't see her. If I keep quiet, maybe he won't realize it's me. I hate this. I will never forgive father. Jacob was gentle with her. Oh, Rachel, I've waited so long for you. I wish it were light so that I could see you. Why are you so quiet? Don't be afraid. I won't do anything to hurt you. When she heard this, Leah began to weep silently. Oh, Mishlag, if only this were you. Come to me, my beloved, I will comfort you. Jacob held her close and began to caress her gently. Leah closed her eyes and pretended it was Mishlag. After he was through, she slept fitfully. The next morning, Jacob awoke. He opened his eyes and turned towards her. What are you doing here? Where is Rachel? Leah, who was mortified by his obvious rejection of her, explained to him that her father forced her to pretend that she was Rachel.
Next reader. I think it's Stevie.
Stevie.
Okay, okay. How could he do that to me? I've worked so hard these past 7 years for Rachel. Everyone knows I love her. I've been deceived. Where is your father? He hasn't kept his side of the bargain. Jacob put his robe on and strode off to Laban. What have you done to me? Jacob shouted hysterically when he found Laban. Our deal was that I could get Rachel, and instead you substituted Leah. It's not the custom in our land to have the younger marry before the older, said Laban soothingly. Why didn't you let me know when we made the bargain? My son, you and Esau were destined to marry both my daughters. You have told me how you wanted to be the elder son. Good. So now you have the older son's responsibility, and that is to marry my older daughter. But I love Rachel, and I want her to be my wife. I don't want to wait, he exclaimed passionately. You can still be husband to both. Work for me during this bridal week, and Rachel will be yours as well. You can pay for her by working 7 more years.
I'm not sure who reads now.
Barbara.
I was last.
Okay, so Barbara, I guess whoever was number 1 begins now.
Jacob had to agree to these new conditions since he was under Laban's jurisdiction. Leah and Rachel, however, never forgave their father for his trickery. Although Jacob loved Rachel more than he did Leah, it was Leah who succeeded in having one baby after another. Rachel was miserable and complained to Jacob, "It's your fault that I've not become pregnant. You must love her more than you love me. Otherwise, why does she have 4 children while I have none? Get me with child or I will die of shame." Jacob was furious. "I've been doing my best. I've been working hard all these years to pay for you, and all you do is complain. Do you think I am God to give you a child? Go ask your sister how she manages. Maybe she will tell you her secret." Rachel went to Leah's tent. "Leah, I'm miserable," she began to cry. "What can I do to have a baby? I'm so desperate." "Stop thinking about it so much. You must force yourself to relax. Just as I no longer think of Mishlag when Jacob comes and have learned to enjoy his company, you must stop thinking about having babies. Just try to relax when it's your turn to be with him, and you will see that you will soon get pregnant."
That's easy for you to say. You have 4 children and don't care if you have more. I can't force myself to relax. You're right. I care too much, she said, and burst into tears. After Rachel calmed down, Leah advised her to give her maid Bilhah to Jacob. If she has a child from him, it will be like your child. That night, when Jacob came to Rachel's tent, he was surprised to find her dressed. "I've decided that I will try to have a child through Bilhah. She is yours for this month, though through her I will have a baby." Jacob was disappointed. "I've been looking forward to this month with you, Rachel." She pleaded, "We can always be together. Please do me this favor. I am sure I will have a baby through her." During her month off, Rachel decided to visit Rebecca's old nurse, Deborah, who was always ready to reminisce about her favorite child. When your father was little, he was close to his sister Rebecca. They were inseparable until Abraham's servant came with all that gold. Laban was so impressed with the gold that he forgot all about her. In fact, he encouraged her to leave in such a hurry that she didn't even take our household idols, the teraphim, with her. I am curious about these household idols, the teraphim. Father always speaks of them as his. Why do you say they were Rebecca's?
By rights, they should belong to the daughter of the house, but since Rebecca left us, Laban felt they were his and hid them from her. Isn't it bad luck not to have them? Yes, I'm sure the enmity between her two boys stems from that. If she would have kept the teraphim, her life would have been happier. Rachel returned to her tent and vowed that if she had a chance, she would take the teraphim with her when Jacob took them back to Canaan. A month passed and Bilhah conceived. Rachel was radiant with joy. I will name the child Dan, for the teraphim have judged me and heard my voice. In this way, Rachel, through Bilhah, had two children, Dan and Naphtali. And not to be outdone by Rachel, Leah decided to do the same. I will give Jacob my maid Zilpah. She will have children instead of me. And Zilpah had two children, Gad and Asher. One day Reuben, Leah's oldest, brought his mother some mandrakes that he found in the fields. Maybe this will help Aunt Rachel to have a baby, he joked. Rachel came into the tent just then and asked what the funny-looking plants were. When she was told that they were an old wives' tale that says they could help a barren woman become pregnant, she became excited and asked for them.
Okay, I'm reading instead of Francine. Leah agreed, providing she let her have Jacob for the week. She readily agreed. After she left, Reuben asked, "Does Aunt Rachel really believe those funny-looking plants will help her have a child? She's always been very superstitious. Who knows? It may help. Anyway, now I have your father back." Leah had two more sons and a daughter, Dinah. The mandrakes did not work, however, for Rachel. Many years passed until she conceived, and then she had a very difficult pregnancy and labor. When she gave birth to a son, she called him Joseph. God has taken away my shame. May he give me an additional son as well. On hearing this, Leah was upset. "You've just had a son and already you're talking about another one? You know how hard it was for you. Be satisfied with this one. Don't tempt fate. How can I be happy with only one son when you have so many? Oh, Rachel, why do we always have to compete? Because we are sisters." Now that Rachel finally had a son, Jacob insisted it was time to return to his homeland.
Yeah, I'm going to skip a little bit because, first of all, otherwise we won't finish on time. And okay, this is now whoever's supposed to continue reading. This is Laban talking. This is Laban talking to Jacob. Okay,
I go. My son, you are taking
whoever's the
everything.
next reader.
I guess it would be me. I'm after Norman. My son, you are taking everything of mine with you. Don't leave with hard feelings. Let us make a pact of peace between us. The pile of stones will serve as a witness to the end of hostilities between us. Remember me well to Rebecca. Take care of my precious daughters and grandchildren. Jacob agreed for his children's sake. They both swore by their gods. Jacob felt much better after all this was sealed. His conscience was clear. Rachel, however, was uneasy. That night she revealed to Jacob that she had the teraphim. He was furious. Didn't you hear me curse the person that had them? What have you done? But they were your mother's. They're not gods to us. Our God is invisible. He is everywhere. Have I taught you nothing? Jacob added as he left in anger. Rachel was seized with terror. Her teraphim gave her no comfort. She had nightmares about the curse. She ran to her sister, Leah. What have I done? I feel something terrible is going to happen to me. Don't leave me. I am afraid. Leah tried to stay with her as much as she could, but it was not easy. She was not mistress of her own time. Jacob needed her too. He was worried about the old enemy between him and his brother Esau.
Okay, we're going to skip a little bit more now. And this is when he meets up with Esau. All right.
He was
And
oh,
wait. I'm skipping a little bit. Whoever's reading now, start from here. On the road to Bethel.
On the road to Bethel, Rebekah's old nurse, Deborah, died and was buried under an oak tree. Rachel had encouraged her to come with them to see Rebekah once more before she died. Her death affected Rachel very much, for the old nurse had been the only one who had understood why she had taken the teraphim. She had lost her ally. They journeyed from Bethel towards southern Canaan. They had to cross a wadi, which was still full of water from a recent rain. "Father, come quickly," Joseph said. "Mother needs you."
Skip this. Okay. You want to continue reading, Geraldine?
They traveled a few days and arrived at the River Jordan. They were all excited. "Tomorrow we cross the river." On the road to Bethel, Rebekah's old nurse.
Oh,
Wait, I repeated that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Here we go. What is it now? Okay.
"What is it now, Rachel? I'm very busy. Jacob, I'm not really up to traveling. I feel terrible. If you want to stay behind, I can leave Judah and Asher with you." "No, I'll manage, but I really don't feel well." "We will make you a pallet, and the servants will carry you across the wadi." They were on the road to Bethlehem 2 months later when Reuben came running to Leah. "Mother, come quickly. Aunt Rachel says the baby is coming." "Is the midwife with her?" "Yes, I sent for her." "Good, I'm coming. Go find your father and tell him." "Rachel, I'm here," Leah said as she entered her sister's tent. "Leah, I'm in such terrible pain. Help me, keep me company. I'm afraid that I'm going to die." "Hush, don't be silly. Remember when we were little and you said that to me?" "Yes, when I got my first menstrual period." "What did I promise you then?" "I remember, we were so happy then. You said you would die before me because you were older, and I believed you then." "Leah, I am terrified. I won't live through this birth. If I die, I..."
Next
want you to promise me you will raise this baby as your own. Rachel, don't be silly. You're not dying. Swear to me that you take me seriously. If it makes you happy, so be it. But you're not dying. It cannot be. You are younger than I am. Leah, tell Jacob I love him. Love him for me when I am gone. You will have plenty of time to tell him that yourself. I have sent for him. I've sent for him. Now come on, let's go on having the baby. I'm afraid. Relax, breathe deeply, push. I can't anymore. I don't have the strength. Rachel, push, good girl, keep it up. Keep trying, push, push. It's coming. It's a beautiful boy. He looks like Joseph did when he was born. Let me see him. I'm so tired. Call him Ben-Oni, son of my suffering. I can't hold him from me. Let me sleep. I'm so tired. As she closed her eyes, Jacob entered then and asked, Rachel, my love, are you any better? She's resting, Leah said. Jacob, she thinks she's dying, but that can't be. She's younger than me. She can't die. What can I do without her? Can't we do anything? It's my fault. I curse her when she stole the idols.
Rachel opened her eyes and whispered, "Leah, keep your promise." "I will, Rachel. Jacob, hold me tight. Make Leah as happy as you made me. I love you both." These were her last words. Just then the baby cried. Jacob, she called him Ben-Oni. That's not a name to give a child. We will call him Ben-Yamin, my right-hand son, but to me he will always be Ben-Yamim, son of my old age. I feel my heart breaking. I feel old suddenly. I lied to you, Rachel, Leah wept. I really hoped you would die first. You were always so lovely. Now Jacob is mine. It is my turn to be beautiful, but I miss you so. She turned to Jacob and they comforted each other. Today they buried Rachel on the road to Bethlehem. Leah raised Binyamin as her own son. He was her atonement for outliving her sister.
Okay, so that's the ending.
Ooh.
When I don't know how you felt about the ending. Let me just stop the sharing. I don't know how you felt about the ending. I remember when I reread it after I wrote it, I actually started crying. I don't know if you know if you feel the same way about it, but you know, at the death scene of and then my daughter actually translated, Abigail translated this into Hebrew many years ago. I have no idea what she did with the translation and where it is. But then when she read it, I said, "How did you feel about the ending?" She said the same thing. Today, this is something I wrote really when I was much younger. I had not really, you know, the only death I had experienced had been my father, who had died when I was 30. And but I really, wasn't, hadn't really experienced death. Anyway, I don't know how this resonated with you. It's fairly long. I think it's the longest midrash that I wrote that's in the book. And I many times thought of cutting it. I stuck pretty closely to the actual story. Here and there, I had a few little different things. Oh, I see Sue had to leave. I had a few little different things where I had variations or explanations, but it's basically just, it's a story. It's a story more of relationships between two sisters. And I don't know if the fact that they're Bible characters really matters. What are your thoughts about that? Because it's more like a short story than a biblical tale. To me.
Naomi, I was wondering, I think we're rushing this. Can you perhaps give us 10 more minutes with this at the beginning of the next class? It's so very powerful, and I think we're just rushing it a little bit.
Well, no, we can continue to talk now a little bit. If any of you have to leave, and obviously you'll leave, but what are the things that you want to talk about? That's what I'm curious.
Well, I think it really is about two sisters dealing with some very powerful things. And Leah gets this baby. I mean, this last baby, which is her sister's. It's very tragic. It really breaks you up. And, you wonder what happened to them all afterward. How did they live through this tragedy? There she is buried on the road. So it's just a lot to talk about, I think. So can we next time?
We could, but
Well, I feel I'd like to talk a little bit more about it.
Can you stay on a little bit?
No, I have to go.
Oh,
Okay.
if anyone else would like to stay on and talk about it a little bit, you can. I mean,
Yeah.
I know we've run over time. I didn't plan this one well. Actually, I knew it would be very long, but I didn't want to just have the story without a little bit of art and commentary and background. So,
Well, as sisters, I think it's kind of interesting in thinking, my younger sister was able to birth a child. I was not. Yet when she birthed that child looked so much like me. It wasn't funny. People thought that was my child. But the love that I have for that child, who's a man, is so profound. And if in fact something had happened to my sister, would be no doubt in my mind that I would do all that I could do to really care for that child. So although she died, I think the gift was left that she had this child.
That's an interesting thought. It could also work the opposite, right? She could resent.
I'll take the affirmative on it because it was such a blessing, and she was able to have a part of her sister through this child.
Do you think that afterwards there would be a good relationship between Jacob and Leah, and that he would actually come to love her?
Probably not. I don't think he ever really loved her. He loved I guess he loved the children. I don't think he ever really loved Leah.
I think he resented her. I mean, you know, she outlived her sister and she, you know, I think that
Well, I think it's
he
hard for
was in
him to
such
forget the
pain. He was
deception.
in such pain. He had to do, you know, he spent his whole life trying to placate and to try to be there for Rachel, and then she dies, and I don't think he ever really got over it.
That's interesting. So the fact that he may never get over it, that it remained a tragedy. Yeah, Louise.
Well, I think, you know, you're left with him still feeling resentful about Laban pulling that deception. I mean, if Laban had let Leah marry the person she loved, Mishlag, then how would the whole story have changed? I mean, you know, it started in a bad place and then it ends in a bad place, even though there were some positives in between. I think it would be very difficult to overcome. I mean, they may have come to some sort of reconciliation, but I agree. I don't think he ever really loved Leah, and that's hard not to show that.
Do
Any
you
other
think
comment?
he could have had a different kind of love for Leah?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not
She
that,
did give him all those children, so.
passionate romantic stuff, but a love for her in a different way.
Yeah.
What about the children?
They need a lot of psychotherapy.
Okay, that's also very interesting, because if you think about the fact that, you know, the 12 tribes come from these people, and then Benjamin ends up being a very problematic tribe.
Yeah.
And who comes from the tribe of Benjamin?
Oh.
David.
Benjaminites.
Which king?
David.
No, it's
No.
Saul.
Oh, Saul. Yeah.
Saul, right.
No.
So, and anyway, it's very, very interesting. I mean, if we want to bring a child psychologist, you know, to deal with them, that would be very interesting to see what would happen.
You know
Okay.
what? All the whole Bereshit, they all need to be psychoanalysts. They all need psychologists because they're all dysfunctional. If you think about
Right. I mean, and the whole thing with the superstition and the mandrakes and all of that, it's
Right. And by the way, since we're talking about psychotherapy, my sister was a social worker who was a psychiatric, whatever. She
Psychotherapist.
and she
Clinical social worker.
she wrote articles about this whole dysfunctionality of people in the book of Bereshit. I mean, that was her major interest, and one of her unfinished works was to one day write her magnum opus, which she never got to do, but she kept on pushing it off. So I will end on that note, since I dedicated this to my sister. And if anybody wants to stay on, I'm going to stop the recording 1 minute.
And I'll wait till you stop.